Hello, my tubies, my Teletubbies. If I sound a little hoarse, it's because I don't know. I'm battling bronchitis. Not even battling it actually, because I'm getting the best of it. And if I seem a little groggy, somewhat, it's because I took this cough medicine, whatever the hell they gave me, and they did say they warned me that it might make you a little groggy. So if I sound a little slurred, no, it's not alcohol. Let's get that out there right now. It's just some cough stuff that they gave me, along with this inhaler and all this other crazy nonsense. But anyway, I wanted to talk about, how Jesus Christ is amazing and he's wonderful, and how he is exposing this Jehovah's Witness organization. And there was a question that I had in my head, or there's something that I still don't understand, but then I had this epiphany, or this revelation. God had given me this revelation in terms of why don't Jehovah have another one of these governing bodies speak out like Brother Franz. Brother Franz was a governing body member. He wrote the book Crisis of Conscience, because his conscience couldn't sit well with it anymore. He just had to speak out. And I'm wondering, why is it that Jehovah hasn't chosen to have more governing bodies come out and speak out, So then I had the epiphany, the revelation, because if a lot of people was to find out the truth about this organization right now, a lot of people wouldn't be able to handle it. So Jesus Christ is doing things gradually. He's exposing this organization because, as we know, Jesus Christ is very, very loving. And hold on a moment. What the hell? Right outside on my terrace? I'm seeing things outside. Okay. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 11. Make it your aim to live quietly and to mind your own business. So I'm going to apply that. Anyway. I feel so good today. But anyway, so I came to the realization that a lot of people wouldn't be able to handle this. And a lot more people would be committing suicide. Because I remember when I woke up to find out that my whole worldview, my whole foundation, which was my religion, if you will, and that shouldn't have been my foundation, should have been Jehovah God and Jesus Christ. But I was a mess. I was a freaking mess. For I don't know, 2.5 years. I used to be in my office crying every day because I didn't have any support. I didn't have anyone else who understood, fully, or the impact that it has on a person when they realize that their whole worldview was a lie, and they finally realized that they were a part of a cult. My son, who was very supportive in many areas, but he still believed in this organization. So I was out here alone, truth be told. You see, I could have walked away from this organization and don't even look back. I wouldn't care less. Okay? But the devastating part for me, it was total devastation, PTSD, was the loss of my family. That's what freaked me out. Okay? So again, back to the revelation that Jehovah God and Jesus Christ revealed to me, the reason why they are not exposing this organization as quickly or as broadly as they can is because a lot of people will be a mess. So Jesus Christ is gradually exposing them the way he did with the Pharisees. So what I want to share with you right now is with I love this man, and I'm sure so many other people do, because he is exposing this organization for what they really are. And what he is talking about now is the 5 factors that are slowly killing the JW cult. Yes, it's a cult. Do my kids know that? Yes, they do. Anyway, it's Lloyd Evans. Who doesn't know Lloyd Evans? I mean, this man has been in court. He has been through it all. And when I look at anything that is coming from the Jehovah's Witnesses programs or what have you, I always look at it through Lloyd Evans. I also like critical thinkers like that, people who are not nut jobs, people who are serious. And then you have several folks on here who have never been a Jehovah's Witness. So they can't call these people an apostate. They was never Jehovah's Witnesses. But they're just looking at this organization from the outside looking in. And what they're seeing is that this is a cult, and it's a very dangerous cult. I mean, you have people who are in the courtrooms, people who are news reporters, never been a Jehovah's Witness a day in their life. So you can't say, oh, they're just bitter or they're angry, Jehovah's Witnesses just speaking out because there's some issues that they're having. No. And in the courtroom, you have people who are on the jurors who have never been Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're finding a lot of the things that Jehovah's Witnesses do as no, guilty, especially when it comes to the child molestation, especially when it comes to their shunning policies, where we know we had one of the governing body sitting right there in the courtroom under oath, Tubies, and outright lied. That's when a lot of people lost respect for the organization too, because they saw there's no family changes, there's no shunning, no what? Anyway, let's just listen to Lloyd. Hold on a moment, let me set it up, and I'll get right back to you. I'm going to put you on pause right now.
Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome
Hi,
to
Lloyd.
The Bunker. In this video, I'm going to be discussing 5 factors that are slowly killing the Jehovah's Witness organization, or as many are increasingly calling it, the Jehovah's Witness cult. Now, this isn't an exhaustive list. There are actually a number of factors that come into play when we think about threats to the organization and its aspirations, but these are the big 5 as far as I'm concerned. They're sort of interrelated as well, as we're going to discuss, but in any case, here we go. Factor number 1, child sexual abuse mishandling. Now, this is becoming a huge thorn in the organization's side. It arguably has been a thorn in the organization's side for at least 20 years now. It was 2002 when there were 2 very damning documentaries aired in the UK and in the United States exposing this issue. And since then, we've just had scandal after scandal, lawsuit after lawsuit,
It's true.
Documentary after documentary. This is an issue that isn't going away. The organization faces
Now, it's like I said, this is going on in the courts. These are people who have never been Jehovah's Witnesses, okay? And this is something that's not going away. And then you have a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, they're going to sit there and say, these people are just lying. The courts are lying. People are actually winning court cases against this organization. All of that's lies? Really? Okay.
increasing exposure, including from governments. And that's the crucial issue here. Because to a degree, the organization can just bat off individual cases or individual lawsuits. It can reach settlements depending on how much cash it has available. But when it comes to actual governmental exposure, that's a game changer. And we've seen this in Australia, where they had the Australian Royal Commission in 2015, which has finally resulted in a redress scheme that the organisation has been dragged kicking and screaming into, joining at the 11th hour after they were threatened with having their charitable status removed. This whole situation ultimately proved that money talks. If Watchtower stands to lose considerable funds, in this instance by losing its status as a charity and various tax exemptions, Watchtower is vulnerable and it's willing to make concessions, but otherwise it's absolutely not willing to make any concessions whatsoever. From what I can see, and I've been watching the.
And you notice this, the point I wanted to pause this for a brief moment. You notice that when they, the government decided to hit them in their pocket, all of a sudden their beliefs flew out the window. When you're no longer going to have the, what is that, the non-taxable status, you know, based on you're a church or what have you, once you hit them in their pocket, you see how their beliefs all of a sudden changed? What happened to your integrity? What happened to your loyalty? What happened to that, Jehovah's Witnesses?
Situation now, over 10 years of activism, the organization considers this a hill worth dying on. They are perfectly willing to stick to policies that endanger children because they consider this a matter of loyalty to Jehovah. They consider their interpretation of Deuteronomy 19 verse 15, the two-witness rule, they consider that sacrosanct and something that can't be compromised on. And it's this stubbornness that slowly but surely is proving to be the organization's undoing, because it's terrible from a PR perspective. No organization wants to have the reputation of covering up child sexual abuse. That's exactly the reputation the organization has. The media are relentless on this to a degree, even though Jehovah's Witnesses are trained to think of the media as on the case of the organization for every single issue, to the point of being overly critical.
And it's true. It's the media. It's the People magazine. Hold on a moment. Let me get this People magazine. Now, that's a well-respected. This is not like the National Enquirer or some other crazy magazine. We're talking about the People magazine. And even Jehovah's Witnesses are making the news all over the world. They are now known to be a pedophile's paradise. Hold on a moment. Let me get that magazine and so I can show it to you. So they can't say, oh, you're just lying. Oh, okay. So tell me, is this a lie? Okay, I'm back with you. This is the People magazine. Okay. The one with Kobe Bryant, whatever. This is February 10th, 2020. This is just last year. Let me show you what they're saying about Jehovah Witnesses. I made sure I got this already pointed out. It says, right here, a Jehovah Witness cover up? What are they covering up? So let's see. I made highlights here. They shared the same shattered secret. Both were molested as children. These are people who are in court and winning cases right, left and right. They showed how they were molested as children by well-respected elders in the congregation. If you don't believe me, because you say, oh, you're just making it up, go and find that. You could go and get people and look for the back orders on it and get the February 10th, 2020, and read the article for yourself. The cover-up, okay, and it says, other former Jehovah's Witnesses who also say that they were abused within this group. They are a part of the investigative series, The Witnesses, which aired February 8th and the 9th on Oxygen. Okay, it says here, the Jehovah's Witness organization is under intense investigation. They have a pattern of covering up sexual abuse within the faith and features interviews with survivors, okay? So they have a pattern of covering up sexual abuse. We have, for example, they have someone who's now 50 years old, and they talk about the molestation, how they were molested when they were 7 years old. That's when it started. But you know, with the Jehovah's Witnesses, they tell you not to go to the authorities first, based on their two-witness rule. who stands or who's going to be 2 witnesses, whatever. Anyway, you're supposed to take it to the elders and they take it to their legal department. This is what you're instructed to do as a Jehovah's Witness. You're not supposed to go to the authorities. You're supposed to take it to their legal department. And what do their legal department usually say? Let's leave it in Jehovah's hands. Were there 2 witnesses there to witness this child getting raped? Okay then. Let's leave it in Jehovah. Yeah, okay. Anyway, people have not been reporting certain things because the statute of limitations. But if you notice the new laws that they have now, they lift those statutes of limitations, and that's why a lot of the Jehovah's Witnesses are coming out now. But anyway, when you get a chance, wow. This person says, I'm sharing my story so others feel okay to talk too. The Jehovah's Witnesses rules change, and so that the Jehovah's Witnesses rules change, and so that this doesn't continue. The pedophile paradise. Okay? Just get the book for yourself. Like I said, People magazine is not one of those little shabby little magazines. Look at the date on it. It's February 10th, 2020. That's recent, okay? I got this out of my bank. I was at the bank and I asked them if I could have this. I said, would you mind? I was just sitting in the bank and I just picked up the People magazine while I was waiting for whatever, one of the people to help me. And when I was looking through it, I was just looking through it and I saw this article. I said, what? I told the person, the manager, I asked him, I said, would you mind if I have this magazine? Because I don't want to steal. So they said, no problem. Go ahead, take it. How about that, Jehovah's Witnesses?
In many ways, the media hasn't been covering this enough. And this has been a real problem because without media exposure, the government isn't under any real pressure to do anything. We've seen this in the United States, where there's very little governmental action compared to countries like Australia and the Netherlands, where the government is stepping in.
Yeah, the government.
Expect that to change as we move forward in time. I just can't see future generations tolerating a scenario where an organization is allowed to keep secret records on criminals, on child sexual predators that aren't being handed over to the authorities. It's kind of this open secret that's documented. I mean, you can find proof of this in the organization's own documented policies, that they keep these records and that they don't necessarily hand them on to the authorities. And yet, for whatever reason, well, actually, I know what the reason is. It's deference to religion. Particularly in the United States, there is an attitude of letting religions do as they please. Even though the United States is in many ways a very secular country, it's still a very religious country, and governmental administrations don't seem to have an appetite for being seen to go after a religious group, perhaps wary of the backlash among the electorate. And I think there's a similar thing going on in the United Kingdom. Again, mostly a secular country, but still very influential religious undercurrents in society, resulting in the government not being as heavy-handed as it ought to be.
That's right.
In addressing the issue of the mishandling of child sexual abuse. But this ultimately isn't an issue that's going away. The organization is going to continue to pay a price for its stubbornness to move on this issue. Will it prove to be the ultimate deciding factor in the organization's eventual demise? We'll have to see, because there are other contenders, but
and other people are starting to step up when it comes to these Jehovah's Witnesses, which is why they are banned in 34 countries. Not just Russia, not just Australia is paying attention to this, but they have now banned Jehovah's Witnesses in 34 countries. And if you don't believe me, Google it. Countries Jehovah's Witnesses are banned in. And check it out for yourself. And the number one reason why they're being banned is because they are known as extremists. They take things to the extreme, like the Pharisees did with their 600 or 14,000 laws that had nothing to do with the scriptures. They're extremists. But they're going to sit up here and say, oh, we're being persecuted for the name of Jehovah because we're the strongest. Only the strongest ones are going to make it and survive, and only the strongest ones are going to stay with the organization. No, it's not the strongest ones. It's the dumbest ones. The dumbest, stupidest, weakest ones are sticking with this organization. King Dumb, get it? King Dumb Hall. It's the dummies that are sticking with this because there's way too much information out here now. It's in the news. It's in newspapers. It's in magazines. It's all over the world exposing these Jehovah's Witnesses, and they still choose to stay with this organization. I have to wonder. Stuck on stupid.
The mishandling of child sexual abuse is a very corrosive factor when it comes to looking at the organisation's long-term health. Moving on to our second factor, shunning. This is another area where you have a policy that is blatantly going to be unpopular.
Hold on, I have to go to the ladies' room, guys. Okay, I'm back. Oh, I feel so relieved. Yeah, so we are talking about the shunning policies of Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's another reason why they're shooting themselves. They're shooting themselves in their own foot, because their shunning policies are not even scriptural. Now, I can understand if someone is committing fornication or committing adultery and they refuse to repent or to change their ways, then you definitely have to take some action. But to sit around and shun people because they choose to go to another Bible study group, they choose to study the Bible only instead of book, magazines, and brochures, to shun people and destroy people's family because you choose to celebrate your birthday or you choose to grow a beard. A beard. Now you can't be in any positions of leadership because you grew a beard? You choose to kind of shun these people or fall back from these people based on things that are not even scriptural. That's ridiculous. I remember how they started shunning me. Why? Because I simply wanted to write a book. I decided that I wanted to be an advice coach. I decided that I wanted to further my education. And I wrote a book. I wrote a book. This is why they shunned me. Okay? This is my book. Best information before leaving Earth. Answers that work. Sheila Truelove. Okay? I wrote a book, and once they, especially my daughter, that was crazy. When I showed her that I was a published author, because it was my dream. I've always wanted to see my book among the greats, which is Amazon. I wanted my book on Amazon. And because I wrote a book with my picture on the back, okay, that's when I noticed that they started backing away from me, backing up. And because I decided that, but hold on before we move on. If you notice, best information before leaving Earth is look at the acronyms, BIBLE, Bible. Where are you going to get the answers that work except for from the Bible? And if you notice in my book, it's not preachy. It's a book that has nothing but scriptures to back up everything that I say. Everything that I say. If my daughter and my family were to take the time to pick up my book and read it, they would feel like such fools. They would feel so stupid. Okay? My son, he's an author, a published author. He wrote at least 6 books. His books, I told my son, watch how you write certain things, because if you can't read this book with Jesus Christ, if you can't sit down with Jesus and read it, the book with him, then you shouldn't be kind of writing that. I purchased my son's books because all of his poetry, he likes poetry. He has like 7 books, excellent poems in them. Some of them I don't approve of. I don't. But he has good poems in those books too. He has a lot of things that's helping people to understand what so many Jehovah's Witnesses are battling. And that's what his books are trying to help people to get to understand. He's got his little journey that he's going through. And I don't think that his sister should be shunning him because of his journey. Because, honey, when she was disfellowshipped for doing, oh, please, I don't even want to go there because I'm not trying to put her business out there like that. But we was right there with her. We didn't shun her. We didn't turn our back on her. But let us do something wrong, and she threw us to the wayside. Raised my grandchildren to hate my guts. That's a Jehovah Witness. Son-in-law, you think he would sit there? He's supposed to be a ministerial servant. Yeah, sure. You think he would tell her, you need to really take time, Samara, to work through this with your mom. Because we know what the Bible says in terms of honoring your parents and respecting your parents. He doesn't do anything like that, Mr. Ministerial Servant, last time I heard. But let's get back to Lloyd Evans when it comes to the shunning. And this is why so many people are leaving Jehovah's Witnesses too. Because when I look at the comments here, and they say, they say the tower is falling, the tower is falling. But they say they can't believe that Jehovah's Witnesses would actually throw out their own children. They would turn their back on their own children, their own mother, for reasons that are not scriptural. Let your kids say, Mom, I decided that I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness. And watch how fast she's ready to throw you out that door. If you're of legal age. Or if you could get your working papers where you could get a job. As long as you're 16, you could get your working papers. You can afford to get a room. Get out of my house. Why? Simply because I said I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness. And there's nothing unscriptural that they could show in the scriptures to back that up and support that could support that. I decided, Mom, I found this Bible study group because me personally, I don't really do churches too much. I like Bible study groups now. And I have an amazing Bible study group that I meet with every Sunday, 12 o'clock. You have two options. I'll leave the information in the description area. Yeah, where we just talk about the Bible, and it's amazing. Your kid don't do anything to disrespect your home. Your kid is obedient. Your kid is very respectful, and you still want to throw them out simply because they don't want to be a Jehovah Witness. That's scriptural? Okay, whatever.
With the wider public, but the organisation considers it to be a matter of loyalty, even though it's something they've only been doing since 1952, actually, was when the disfellowshipping policy came into play. And then in 1981, they broadened the policy so that you couldn't disassociate without also being shunned, even though it's a relatively recent teaching in the organization's history. They consider it to be a divine command, something that proves that they are different from the world, separate from the world, more clean and more pure. So they're just not going to move on this, even though it's a narrative that plays straight into the hands of journalists that are covering this organization from a critical perspective, even though it's an area where people like me, where activists can point to the organization as being cruel and unloving and driving people really to the point of suicide in some instances. That's how dangerous this policy is when it comes to people's mental health. Again, they view it as a hill worth dying on. They view it as a matter of loyalty. They're going to cling to it, even if this whole matter of shunning ends up being a factor in the organization's eventual demise. And it could conceivably be, because we've recently seen, of course, the verdict in Belgium, where a criminal court in Ghent ruled against the organization, fining the organization for breaching the country's laws on discrimination. The shunning policy is discriminatory. It breaches and violates people's human rights, because according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 18, everyone has the right to both follow a religion and join a religion and also leave or change their religion. So if as an organization...
And the thing about that is I changed my denomination. My religion is, I'm a part of the Church of Christ. Anyone who's a Christian, you're part of the Church of Christ. You're part of the body of Christ. I have not changed my religion. My religion is I'm a Christian. I'm not an apostate. Apostate means I would have become a Hindu. I would have become a Muslim. I would have become somebody who don't see Jesus Christ as the Son of God, or I wouldn't see Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. That's the way I want to put it. I wouldn't see him as my Lord and Savior. That would mean I was an apostate. I'm not an apostate, sweetheart. I'm a Christian. Okay? I want to read a comment here. This is like a little bit off topic. We're talking about shunning right now, but this is dealing with the child sexual abuse. Barbara, she says, the mishandling of child sexual abuse is what finally woke me up. She says, I've been having doubts about a lot of things when it comes to this organization, but watching the Australian Royal Commission regarding how they handle this matter of the sexual child abuse, that was the final straw for me. She says, watching Jeffrey Jackson sit there and blatantly lie, it made her physically sick. And I remember seeing that too in court. He was in court under oath, and he blatantly told lie after lie. Child, please. Commented. Someone else is. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's get back to Lloyd Evans.
You are exporting punishment on people who leave your group. You're not respecting their rights to leave. You're not respecting their human rights.
Thank you.
And it's interesting that at least in one country, in Belgium, countries are starting to realize that this is not okay. This is actually a violation in terms of discrimination. And it will be interesting to see to what extent, again, governments in other countries start to take note of this practice. We saw in the case of child sexual abuse, what started in Australia is slowly continuing in other countries. It could be that something similar happens with shunning. We will have to wait and see. Moving on to our third factor, and this is one that perhaps you're not expecting me to mention as a factor that could lead to the death of the Jehovah's Witness organization. But I consider JW broadcasting to be detrimental to the aims and aspirations and objectives of the governing body. Why do I say that? Well, when the very first JW broadcasting episode aired in October 2014, I made a video in which I commented that this was a case of the organization ultimately shooting itself in the foot. They were taking the bait of producing videos and thus showing themselves in a light that perhaps many followers hadn't seen them in before. The more they expose themselves to their followers, the more the governing body risk their followers realizing how ordinary and deluded and uninspiring these individuals who make up the governing body in fact are. And what's interesting is when you look at the actual figures for the publisher numbers for the 6 years before JW broadcasting and the 6 years after or since JW broadcasting, it's not looking great for the organization. So in 2008, for the 2008 service year report, there were 6,829,455 average publishers.
You said it was 6 million. Okay, let's listen in.
2014, for the 2014 service year report, and bear in mind, this took us to the 1st of September 2014, and the very first JW Broadcasting episode was in October 2014. So these are kind of on the nose in terms of when we would want to divide the 6 years before and 6 years after. The average number of publishers for the 2014 service year report was 7,867,958. So a 15.2% increase. Remember that figure, 15.2% increase between 2008 and 2014, or an increase in actual numbers of 1,038,503. So 2008 to 2014, 15.2% increase. What were the numbers like in the 6 years after JW Broadcasting was introduced? So the numbers for 2020, 6 years after that seminal moment in the organization's history, 8,424,185 average publishers. You will remember that the 2020 service year report was historic because it was the first time in 42 years that there had been an actual decrease in the numbers, in the publisher figures from one year to the next. But anyway, here we are. It's still 8 million odd, is still more than 7 million odd. So 2020, 8,424,185 average publishers, which is a 7% increase in the 6 years since JW Broadcasting was introduced. Isn't that interesting? So we've gone from 15.2% increase in the 6 years before JW Broadcasting, and half of that, 7% increase, in the 6 years following the launch of JW Broadcasting, or an increase in real terms of 556,227.
So with their JW Broadcasting, that's how they managed to get these increase. But they're decreasing now. I assure you, they don't have no 8 million people anymore. It's more like maybe 6 million, because every month, every week actually, there are people leaving this organization. Every week, there are hundreds of people that are waking up. So if you hear them still sitting around talking about we have 8 million, no, you don't. You're a liar, but what else is new? Anyway, this is another comment. This came from Frank Simons. He says, interesting you would mention that, how they sit there on the witness stand and they lie. He presumptuously refused to give a direct answer, and they don't, to the questions that are asked them. You see, when you ask them a question, they try to hit you up with another question. It says, so he answered with a question. And the reason they do that is evidence that they are fully aware of this con that they're running. And he always wears this little smirk, like he gets so much perverted gratification from intentionally deceiving people. Real psychopaths think they're smarter than everyone else, and they take pride in misleading people right in front of their eyes. To them, this is proof of how much of a genius they are. The bigger the deception, the more people that go for it, the better. They know what they're doing, and they love it because it's the work of their father, the devil. They want to turn as many people away from the Most High, Jehovah and Jesus, where they focus on Jehovah a lot, but they're not listening to Jehovah. They're not doing what Jehovah wants. Jehovah wants you to follow his son. And you notice how they don't focus on Jesus Christ? They really don't. So they're trying to turn as many people as possible away from Jesus Christ. People worshiping a mimic God, and they don't even know it. So I'm also thinking about the new studio that they're thinking about building, which they're still with their false prophecies, because they're saying that the end is right around the corner. It's right at your door. It's at your front door. That's how close we are to the end. But yet you're building a multi-million-dollar studio. Of course, that's just so they can pull more people in because they see that they're losing so many people. So they're building this studio like a Hollywood so they can make more videos to pull people in. And the reason they're doing that is based on 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8, where it says, 1 Peter, bear with me for a moment. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8, and I'm going to use the Contemporary English Bible. It says here, be on your guard and stay awake. It says your enemy, the devil, is like a roaring lion seeking around and looking around to find someone to attack. Be alert because your adversary, the devil, is prowling like a roaring lion looking to devour you. That's why they're coming up with this studio, because Satan, the devil, sees that people are waking up. And now Satan, the devil, he's out there on the warpath. He's out there like a roaring lion, looking for, to devour people. Look at how they destroy families. Look at how they devour families. Look at how they destroy people's lives. Look at how they have people actually on the verge of suicide because of the loss of people they thought were friends, because of the loss of family members. People are actually out there. Satan is devouring. That's why they're coming up with this new studio. I thought the end was right around the corner. So why are you still buying houses? Why are you still getting married and having children and all of this if it's right around the corner? You're going around telling people not to get higher education because that's the same as investing in a company that's going out of business. Really? And that's just so hypocritical too. That freaks me out. Let me tell you the part that freaks me out with that. Because if they're in trouble, they need a lawyer. When they're sick, they need a doctor. They need a surgeon. In order to be a surgeon, a lawyer, a doctor, that takes higher education. Right. That's going to take higher education. But yet you sit up there and you discourage people. You discourage people from getting higher education, higher learning, because this system is on its way out. They was telling me that back in my time when I was 7, we got into this religion when I was 8. I think I was 8 years old. They was talking about don't get higher education because this system is on its way out. Honey, I'm grown already. I've given birth to 2 children. They're grown already. My daughter, grandkids, they're, 19? This is 20.
Excuse me, boss. You have a text message.
Okay, yeah, okay. So this is 2021. Grandkids are 19 years old, 16 and 19 years old. Now, imagine you're sitting up here not investing in your future. You see what I'm saying with these false prophets? It's ridiculous. It's redunculous. But they're part of the kingdom hall.
Terrible numbers. If you are the governing body and you're looking to JW Broadcasting as a way of turning the trend round, of doing a U-turn, of fighting back against the influence of the internet, fighting back against hemorrhaging publishers because they're waking up, because they're going on Google. If you're looking at JW Broadcasting as a way of countering that, as a way of putting forward your narrative and putting a glossy spin.
Hold on a moment, baby. I got somebody at my door. Hold on. I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, I'm back with you. That was my neighbor inviting me over to dinner. Well, I'm off all week, so I already told her. And we have so much in common when it comes to cats. She has a lot of cats, you know, but that's her thing. But yeah, I definitely would definitely go for the dinner thing. It's great. Anyway, let's get back
on things. Those are not encouraging numbers. You would expect at least to maintain the same level of growth, wouldn't you, between 2014 and 2020? But for your growth to essentially halve to the point where your numbers are stagnating, and again in 2020 we have the first decrease year on year, that does not bode well for the effectiveness of JW broadcasting. And I think what's happening is, well, first of all, fairly obviously, the governing body are addicted to JW broadcasting. It's kind of a drug for them because it gives them an illusion of fame. And let's not forget, these are incredibly vain men. They are conditioned through their role in the organization to think of themselves as being incredibly important. Everywhere they go in the world, they are doted over, they are adored, they are treated as these amazing individuals. Year after year, that's going to have an impact on their own evaluation of themselves. It's going to inflate their ego to no end, to the point where an opportunity to show themselves in front of millions of followers is going to be something that they kind of create a dependency on for their own feeling of self-worth and importance. So they're going to get the figures from the audio-visual services department, or whichever department it is that keeps an eye on the views and on the downloads, and they're going to see that the views and downloads are in the millions, and they're going to think, oh, these are amazing figures. You know, TV shows would kill for these sorts of ratings where millions of people are tuning in. Clearly, we're onto a winning formula here with JW Broadcasting. This is something we should stick to. In fact, this is such a winning formula. Let's build our own Hollywood in Ramapo. Let's not just have our Mount Ebo complex and our various other facilities. Let's get rid of those and have a consolidated facility, just a hop, skip, and a jump away from the headquarters, where we can make more of this stuff. Let's do this more. This is wonderful, because look at these figures. They're not thinking for a moment that these views are inevitable when it's literally part of the religion of Jehovah's Witnesses to take in spiritual food, to view or watch or absorb almost anything that's put out from the headquarters, whether it's in written form or whether it's in audio form or whether it's in video form. So there's, again, this illusion.
Of course, they're delusional illusions, but I wanted to show you this. I was looking here. Now, here is 34 countries. Countries where Jehovah's Witness activities are banned. Take a look for yourself so you see that I'm not lying or I'm not being hateful or whatever. Right here. Look at all these countries. You can put this on pause and look at it for yourself. Okay? 34 countries where people are waking up, and now the Jehovah's Witness activities are banned. This is a beautiful thing. Yes.
Of fame and popularity that is deceiving these men into thinking that JW Broadcasting is having a positive effect on the organization. But the real numbers that they should be looking at are the numbers I've just given, that show that in actual fact, the growth of the organization has slowed dramatically in the 6 years since they launched JW Broadcasting. If they knew what was good for them, they would wrap the whole thing up. Because what they're doing with each and every video that they put out, and it's not just JW Broadcasting, of course, it's also the marathon of videos that get put out during the conventions, the annual meetings, all of that stuff. What's happening when they put out these videos is that they are showing the man behind the curtain. They are destroying the illusion that Jehovah's Witnesses need in order to stay faithful. I mean, when I think of my idea of what the governing body was when I was a Jehovah's Witness, it was nothing like the governing body that we see on our screens in JW broadcasting episodes or in the various other videos that they put out. I had this idea of kind of like a Jedi High Council of these Yoda-like figures who were just brimming with knowledge and wisdom and humility. They were all grandfatherly men who were very slow and ponderous and wise, and who, if I were to encounter one, perhaps on a visit to Bethel, and if I were to ask them a question, they would maybe pause, and they would then come out with something incredibly wise and profound. And what Jehovah's Witnesses are getting instead of that, when they tune into JW Broadcasting, is, "We warmly welcome you, dear brothers." They're getting clowns, quite frankly, in the form of people like Stephen Lett. They're getting drunken, rambling, incoherent buffoons in the form of Tony Morris. They're getting, in all other cases, just ordinary men who are nothing special and who speak in a very contrived, fake, synthetic way with almost no sincerity whatsoever. And it's got to damage the image that people have or like to have or need to have in their minds that they rely on in order to stay faithful. And I think the numbers are showing that. Obviously, for many witnesses, it's going to be something where they muscle through these JW broadcasting episodes and they feel as though they have to like them. They feel as though they have to respect these men. But for anyone who has any kind of semblance of critical thinking skills still left in their minds, despite the indoctrination, it's going to grate. With each and every video they watch, they're going to realize, I'm being manipulated here. This is not logical reasoning. This is appealing to my emotions. These men are fake. They're relying on their auto cue. There's nothing sincere about what they're saying. There's nothing real. I'm just being manipulated. This is basically televangelism that I'm watching. That's going to be the realization of many. And again, I think we see that in the figures. But because the organization is so deluded, same as with the issue of child sexual abuse, same as with the issue of shunning, what you need when you're in my position as an apostate, as an opposer, what you need as your opposition is an organization that makes all the mistakes that you need them to make because they're deluded. And that's what we have in the governing body. They just keep shooting themselves in the foot because they honestly think that they are God's sole channel of communication and that any idea that comes out of their minds is fantastic and worth pursuing. Anyway, I've explained that factor sufficiently, hopefully. The next factor on my list is increased internet access. The internet is slowly becoming more available. And we see this at the moment with the rollout of the Starlink initiative by SpaceX. Thousands of satellites being released into orbit to basically make the internet more accessible, even in parts of the world where there wasn't previously infrastructure that would make the internet available. And it's not just Starlink, there's obvious incentives for companies and entrepreneurs to make the internet more available, because the more available the internet is, the more money there is to be made. people need the internet. And the more people have the internet in countries where the organization perhaps benefits from a lack of availability of information that goes against the organization's narrative, this can only have, again, a very corrosive impact on the organization. The more people are able to access objective analysis of the organization, information that's critical, information that debunks the organization's teachings and the organization's narrative, this is inevitably going to cause problems and conceivably be fatal to the organization's long-term goals. The internet is killing cults. And I think out of all of the factors on my list, arguably
the internet is killing cults. Jesus Christ is so good. He is so good. I'm so happy because I recall that Jehovah's Witnesses are always talking about leave it in Jehovah's hands, leave it in Jehovah's hands. And Jehovah has handed it over to his son. He handed over to his son, Jesus Christ, to handle this. And Jesus Christ have people who are advocates like me, people who are advocates like Lloyd Evans, people who are speaking out. We're doing what Jesus Christ commands us to do, which is to expose false prophets and expose false teachings, like Jesus Christ exposed the Pharisees. And that's the only thing I'm guilty of. So if my family is upset with me because I choose to do the work that Jesus Christ is instructing me to do, my family is upset with me at this rate because I choose to follow Jesus Christ's teachings and not the governing body. So they're upset with me. And, I say, look, hey, just because, don't be a hater. Just because Jehovah and Jesus Christ chose to enlighten me, don't hate me. There's a reason why Jehovah is not, and Jesus Christ is not enlightening you. Because you have to think, you got to check your heart, honey. You have to check your heart. Something is not right with your heart. You don't have an honest heart, or you're not a lover of the truth. You're so busy talking about, oh, my love language is, you better compliment me 20 times a day or praise me. Or I just want words of affirmation constantly. I just don't want to hear nothing to do with the truth. Oh, no, I'm not a lover of, no. When you are a lover of the truth, the Holy Spirit, Jehovah, is going to permit Jesus Christ to guide you by means of the Holy Spirit. You know what the governing bodies say they have, but every time you look up, oops, a new light, changing their teaching, so we know that they don't really have no Holy Spirit. But when you have a good heart and your intentions are honorable and your intentions are good, Jesus Christ is going to definitely enlighten you on a lot of things. On a lot of things. And there's a reason that he's not. So let's get back with Lloyd.
Availability of the internet is probably going to be the most decisive factor, because the Jehovah's Witness organization simply wasn't built to function in the 21st century. It was built to function in the 20th century when you could monopolize information. You could create your own books, and when you give someone a book, they think, oh, this must be legit because look, there's an actual book.
Wait, I gotta pause this one because this person in the comment section, he says, when I saw Tony in the liquor store, it felt like a scene from The Wizard of Oz when Toda pulled the curtain back and the wizard was some lame old drunk dude with auto-tune. It's so funny. I don't know how many people have seen The Wizard of Oz, But everybody thought this dude was this grand old wizard. He was this great man of knowledge. He was just so all powerful. And then when you pull back the curtain and you finally got to see who he was just some weird, some little, little bitty man who wasn't about much of nothing. That's the governing body. Everybody kept thinking that the governing body is so, oh my God, they're so grandiose. They're so, the only, how you say, have the direct communication with God. The governing body, they're so, they're so, ooh. And when you pull back the curtain and we are seeing them for who they are, thank Jehovah God for the internet. Now we got to see who they are. Where we got one who talks like this, and not trying to knock anyone who may have those type of illnesses, but because he's misleading so many people and hurting and damaging so many people, that's why I go at him like that, because he don't care about how many people he's hurting. And then we have the other one who's caught in the liquor store, 8 bottles of scotch, not just like a little bottle like the Nips or what, big old bottles of scotch. 8 bottles. And then the thing is, he drove 2 miles, 3 miles out of his area when there's a liquor store right across the street, because it's around the Bethel area, and there's liquor stores, and I've listened to Bethelites because I've been talking to Bethelites. There's a liquor store right in the area. Why did he have to drive 2 or 3 miles out of the area? Can we talk about trying to live on the down low? You have something to hide? What are you hiding? And then the time that he did this, you see how good Jesus Christ is, how he exposed him, how Jesus Christ made sure there was someone in that liquor store 2 or 3 miles away, but Jesus Christ still got him on camera. This person couldn't believe that they saw the governing body. This is why they recorded it. They hurried up and whipped out their camera, man. We're quick. That's the governing body. What? And then they was looking at how much he was buying. 8 bottles, and then they looked at the time. This is a time when you're supposed to be at your meeting. Or you're supposed to be conducting the field service or leading people to do what the governing body say you... Really? So you know they had to catch that on camera. Tony Morrison, or Morris, whatever your name is. You want to sit around here and destroy people's families and destroy people's lives. Take a look and put a mirror up to yourself. Yeah, that's really unbelievable. That's why I no longer join religions. Now, I've hung out in the Baptist church. I've hung out with Protestants, born-again Christians, Catholic people, not to try to disrespect anyone, because whatever works for you, it works for you. The only place I really enjoyed is non-denominational, and it's called Grace Fellowship, because Grace Fellowship, they have activities. I only go for the fellowship. I only join Bible study groups now. The only groups or organizations, they're not organizations, that's what I love about it too, is that they're just studying the Bible. I have the most incredible group that I'm a part of, and I'm going to leave it, like I said, in the descriptions for you. But I like Grace Fellowship because 1 is non-denominational. 2, they have so many activities. You know how the Bible says that we should fellowship with each other so we could build each other up. You never know when someone may be down and you want the fellowship part, the making friends with other Christians, people who are like going in the same direction that you're going. You want people who are like-minded, people who are on Jesus Christ's team. That's all I'm interested in. Do you have the mind of Christ? And if not, are you working towards having the mind of Christ? Do you have biblical morals? Do you have biblical values, biblical standards? Then I'm with you. And even when I can see that you're working towards it. I get all of my spiritual food from a YouTube, because you have different pastors. I love Charles Stanley, Joyce Myers. There's other things like the Liquid Church or what have you. And I get my whatever I need based on what I need. But when it comes to the fellowship part, I only would hang out with non-denominational. And I only let me go back to Grace Fellowship. They have crocheting, they have gym classes, they have groups for women, they have groups for men, they have groups for teenagers where they do all these different activities. If you're battling some type of prescription pills that you got caught out there on, or alcohol, they have different groups for that. They have aerobics, they have yoga, they have crocheting classes where people come and it's just a fellowship of people who are interested in living a Christian lifestyle opposed to a satanic lifestyle. That's what I love about that Grace Fellowship. I'm just not able to get to it as much as I'd like to because I don't have a car. But if I could, I would be a part of Grace Fellowship. Definitely that. Anyway, let's get back to Lloyd Evans.
We wouldn't have published a book on it if it wasn't a legit thing that they're talking about. That's no longer the way we take in information. We're not reliant on books anymore. We're not reliant on printed media anymore. Anyone, basically, can get access to information on almost anything now. And Jehovah's Witnesses weren't designed to operate in that environment. Jehovah's Witnesses, as an organization, need to have a total monopoly on information. It's part of the bite model, Stephen Hassan's bite model, if you think about it. Control people's behavior, control information, control thoughts, and control emotions. The information is a big one, though, because if you can control the information, you can control the narrative, and it's easier to deceive people. The more people have access to the internet around the world, in countries that previously didn't have internet access, where the organization has grown because of the lack of internet, this is going to be very harmful to the organization's long-term goals and aspirations. And the final point on my list is downsizing. Now, downsizing is kind of related to almost all of the factors I've already been considering, maybe arguably not JW Broadcasting. But downsizing is an inevitable consequence of an organization that is battling negative PR due to its shunning policy, due to its child sex abuse mishandling. Downsizing is inevitable for an organization that was built for the 20th century that is struggling in the 21st century because of the availability of the internet. But downsizing also is kind of its own runaway phenomenon. It's its own kind of snowball effect. Because what you have when you have downsizing for a religious organization that for decades is convincing its followers that it has God's blessing, because look, we're expanding in these countries. Look, we've just dedicated these new branch facilities. Look, we're building all these kingdom halls. What you then have is a problem, because people will remember that narrative. They'll be used to that narrative of growth, of expansion. And then when they see the organization shrinking because of, in many cases, these factors I've already discussed, witnesses will think, hang on, maybe this organization doesn't have God's backing, because, oh, look, my local Kingdom Hall has been sold, and I'm having to travel an extra 30, 40 minutes just to get to a Kingdom Hall meeting twice a week. Or my local assembly hall has been shut down. Or my local branch has been consolidated with a neighboring country. You know, all of these things will be noticed by Jehovah's Witnesses. And though the organization may try to put a spin on things and say, oh, we're simplifying, this isn't downsizing. This is simplifying the work. This is making our organization more efficient. A more efficient use of dedicated funds. They can say all that if they like. But ultimately, with change after change after change, with retreat after retreat after retreat, what you end up with is a smaller organization. And at some point, people notice how small it is. at some point people notice, there aren't as many congregations anymore. There aren't as many branches anymore. Our religion is smaller. How does that fit in with this narrative that I've been given since I was small, that Jehovah is blessing the organization, and therefore there will just be this continual expansion? Wondrous expansion is now taking place.
Well, like one of the comments here, one of the YouTubers here, I like what they said when they said Jehovah's Witnesses, they're very good at turning any situation they find themselves in. So this is what they say. Well, this is what we were expecting, my brothers and my sisters. This is what we were expecting. We know that the love of the greater number will cool off. We are expecting persecution. We are expecting this, etc., etc., etc. They will never admit that they are being found out. You're being exposed, honey. That's what it's about. It's not about persecution. You're being exposed and you're being found out for the deceivers that you really are. It has nothing to do with persecution or this is what we expected. No, Jesus Christ is exposing you. Modern day Pharisees, that's what you are. Nothing more, nothing less. How about that? How about that?
Jehovah's hand can be seen in the way the organization is just ballooning in size and present in all these different lands. And when you see that the reality is different, it's going to create some problems. It's going to be a catalyst for some severe cognitive dissonance that could spill over into full awakening. People realizing maybe this isn't the religion that I was sold, either when I was studying or when I was being indoctrinated as a child. Maybe it's blatantly obvious that this isn't Jehovah's organization. It's just another man-made organization that's struggling in the internet age because its teachings are unraveling under scrutiny.
Thank you.
So I think those are
I think you're right. And that's right. It's a man-made organization. And this is the point that I keep trying to get across to my daughter, to my family, to other members. It's just a man-made organization. How are you going to throw away your family and your loved ones for some man-made nonsense? For some man-made cult? Really? It doesn't make sense to me, and it never will. And I'm just so grateful that Jehovah God used his son Jesus Christ to enlighten me and to wake me up. Revelation, enlightenment, call it what you want to. But by means of the Holy Spirit, I'm woke. No longer sleepwalking. Not this girl. Anyway, this is Sheila True Love. Truly loving you with everything that I have. That's why I'm an advocate. You know, I know one person, they said that they're glad that they became a Jehovah's Witness. They're glad because now they could be a part of the ExJW community. If there was never a Jehovah's Witness, how could there be a part of the ExJW community? There is so much help out here for those who have woken up, potato, tomato, do what you will. But the thing is, you're not out here alone. And you have us here. I don't know why that bothers me when I'm not speaking proper English, but that kind of bothers me. But the thing is, I'll work it out. I'll figure it out. You're not alone. And we are here, the XJW community. And there are so many groups, support groups, especially on Facebook. And I know you have a lot of the younger ones who they have to stay stuck because they have to rely on their parents' material things and their parents' finances. But look, if you're 16 years old, you're old enough to get your working papers, get yourself a room, and poof, be gone. And look, if you're going to leave this organization, the thing is, look, I don't want people to leave this organization and go out into the world and get eaten alive. All you have to do is focus on Jesus Christ's teachings. Ask yourself before you do anything, is this something that Jesus Christ would approve of? Is this something that the Apostle John, because some people say, well, Jesus was perfect. We're not perfect. John wasn't perfect. The apostles weren't perfect. Is this something that they would do? And if they wouldn't do it, then don't you do it. You don't have to be a Jehovah's Witness in order to know how to live right and to do right. My roommate, Bridget, I love her. She was never a Jehovah's Witness. She was away from her parents, and this girl don't do anything but make wise decisions. She makes decisions based on the Bible. That's how she makes her decisions. She's not a fanatic, because Miss Thing likes to go out to the club, and she likes to break it down. Break it down. Woo! Woo! But she knows how far to take it. She knows how far to take it. She loves to travel. This girl loves to. She's like she's an excellent example to prove that you don't have to be a Jehovah's Witness and still, live a Christian lifestyle. She lives nothing but a Christian lifestyle, and she's what, 23? No. She was with me for what, 4 years, I think. She's 25 now, so she got married, and she's happy right now, and I love her always. Love you, Bridge, in case you're listening, baby. Anyway, this is Sheila True Love, truly loving you. Until next time, I'll see you on the other side. Bye, babies.